Fake HOA demanded he move. He's head of FBI's hate crime division. Part 1. The gated community of Willow Heights was known for three things: manicured lawns, holiday flag regulations, and gossip that moved faster than Wi-Fi. Nestled among the pristine homes was Karen Dunley, a woman with a clipboard, a Bluetooth headset, and more opinions than friends. She wasn't on any board because the HOA had officially been disbanded due to a lawsuit 3 years ago. But that didn't stop Karen from acting like its president. She printed notices. She drafted rules. She'd even started a neighborhood watch newsletter titled Preserving Willow. So when a black family moved into Lot 23, the only modern-style home in the entire block, Karen's eyebrows shot up like a warning flare. The man wore a sharp navy suit the day they moved in. Clean cut, quiet, didn't wave back. His wife, elegant and composed, directed the movers calmly. Their teenage daughter wore a private school blazer and wireless earbuds. They didn't ask about neighborhood socials. They didn't join the group chat. They didn't explain themselves. And that, to Karen, was enough reason to feel uneasy. 3 days later, she slid an envelope into their mailbox. It read, "Dear resident, your property's architectural design and presence have disrupted the uniformity and atmosphere of Willow Heights. While our neighborhood has standards, it is clear this residence does not reflect them. You are encouraged to seek a more suitable community. Shershasuarnin, Willow Heights HOA, reinstatement in progress." There was no HOA. There was no board. There was only Karen. Part 2. The next morning, the envelope was returned. It had been taped to Karen's door, along with a business card. It read, Julian M. Carter, Deputy Assistant Director, Federal Bureau of Investigation, National Division of Civil Rights and Hate Crimes. Karen's stomach dropped. The doorbell rang. Julian stood there wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt now, but with the same authority he carried in the suit. His tone was calm, but razor sharp. "I received your note," he said. "I'm going to assume this was a mistake." Karen's voice cracked. I was just trying to maintain the neighborhood's standards." "There is no active HOA," he said, eyes locked on hers, "which makes what you did not only illegitimate, but very close to criminal harassment." She tried to recover. "I didn't mean it that way." "I head the FBI's hate crime division," Julian interrupted. "I've seen where these harmless notes lead. You didn't ask about my family. You didn't welcome us. You went straight to intimidation because we didn't fit your mold." Karen turned pale. Then Julian said quietly, "This isn't about rules. It's about your assumptions." And with that, he turned and walked back to his home. His daughter stood at the door watching. She hadn't said a word, but her eyes said everything. Part 3. It didn't take long. Karen posted to the neighborhood Facebook group trying to explain herself. "I simply expressed concern about the visual harmony of our street. I had no idea he worked for the government. This isn't about race." But screenshots of her notice had already been shared, first by a neighbor, then by a local blog, then by national media. The headline read, "Fake HOA tries to oust black FBI official who leads hate crime division." The story went viral. Julian didn't respond publicly, but his office released a quiet, firm statement. Everyone deserves to feel safe and welcome in their home, especially those working to uphold civil rights and justice for others. That was enough. Hashtags trended. Shakirli let him live. So this is why he fights. Chuck and Fake Ho exposed. Karen was doxxed. Her business, an etiquette coaching service, was bombarded with negative reviews. Parents pulled their kids from her after-school program. Her past posts surfaced, ones where she referred to neighborhood pride and undesirable tenants in thinly veiled tones. Even her own sister commented on a post. "Karen, I warned you. You judged them before you even knocked on their door. Shame on you." Karen stayed inside for days. For once, her phone was silent. No meetings, no gossip. Just her and the echo of what she had done. Part 4. What finally broke her wasn't the media. It was the sight of Julian's daughter walking to school. Head high, holding hands with a white classmate. Both of them laughing. She wasn't angry. She wasn't hiding. She had overcome what Karen could never imagine facing at that age. That night, Karen sat at her desk, staring at a blank email. Then she wrote, "Mr. Carter, I can't undo the damage I caused, but I want to try to understand it. I want to know how to make it right, not just to you, but to others I've pushed away in the past. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Karen Dunley." She didn't expect a response, but 2 days later, one came. "Then show up. I'm speaking at a community forum next week on hate, silence, and complicity. If you really want to change, start by listening." Part 5. The auditorium was packed. Local officials, educators, parents, all gathered for the first open forum on bias and hate-based harassment ever hosted in Willow County. Julian spoke with quiet power. "Hate doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers through rules, through policies, through who we don't invite in. My family was told we don't belong, not by a law, but by a lie pretending to be one." He paused, scanning the crowd. "But we stayed. Because progress doesn't happen by running away from discomfort. It happens by facing it." Karen sat in the back row, hands folded in her lap. She looked older, quieter, smaller. When the floor opened for questions, she stood. "My name is Karen Dunley," she said softly, "and I'm the one who tried to push him out. Not because of anything he did, but because of everything I refuse to see. I don't expect applause, but I'm here to finally listen." The room went silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole room. Not for what she had done, but for finally facing it. Karen closed her etiquette business. Instead, she started volunteering for the county's Civil Rights Advisory Board, quietly, without press, without posting about it. She helped review housing discrimination complaints, ensuring no one else received the kind of notice she once gave. Julian continued his work, traveling the country, building new training for law enforcement, educating on signs of bias, subtle and loud. But he still came home to Willow Heights every weekend, still watered his front lawn, still waved to every neighbor, even those who once looked away. Because belonging isn't given, it's claimed. And prejudice? Sometimes it doesn't leave until someone refuses to. Side story. A year had passed since the day Karen tried to push Julian Carter out of Willow Heights. The neighborhood had changed, but not because of a press release or a public policy. It had changed because people began to see differently. The house at Lot 23, once quietly scrutinized, had become a place of connection. Julian and his wife hosted community dinners every other month. No speeches, no agendas. Just good food, open doors, and neighbors from every background sitting at one long table under string lights in the backyard. Kids played soccer in the grass. Retired veterans shared barbecue tips. Conversations spilled into laughter. And over time, the unease that once wrapped around the block like a fog began to clear. But one guest stood out. Karen. She came late. Always brought something small. A homemade pie, a salad bowl. She never tried to lead. She never asked to speak. She just sat, listened, helped clean up afterward. She had traded control for contribution. Karen knew she couldn't erase the moment she tried to evict a man she hadn't even said hello to. But she also knew silence wouldn't heal anything. So she started small. She worked at a community center that provided free legal clinics for tenants facing harassment. She took courses in racial equity, not just reading materials, but immersing herself in stories from voices she'd once ignored. She even co-founded a Bridging Bias discussion group, where she told her own story, not as a victim of backlash, but as a former enforcer of invisible walls. "I used to protect the fence," she once said to a group of young homeowners. "Now I try to make sure no one gets fenced out." Julian never brought up the notice again, not in interviews, not in lectures, not even in private, because to him what mattered wasn't the hate, it was the response to it. His daughter, now a confident high school senior, ran a student-led initiative against bullying and coded discrimination. Her campaign slogan? "Call it out, don't carry it quietly." Julian was invited to speak before the Senate Subcommittee on Domestic Extremism. He used Willow Heights as a case study, not to embarrass Karen, but to emphasize how everyday bias is often the first seed of bigger violence. "It doesn't start with bricks and blood," he said. "It starts with assumptions, with fake notices, with fear dressed up as policy." He closed by sharing a photo of his backyard community table. Neighbors from all backgrounds, black, white, Asian, Latino, gathered together. Change isn't abstract, he said. It's dinner. It's forgiveness. It's staying when leaving would have been easier. At the edge of Willow Heights Park, under a dogwood tree, sat a new bench. It was plain, wooden, simple, but the plaque on it read, "In honor of those who stayed, in memory of those who were told they didn't belong." No names, no dates, but everyone in the community knew what it meant. Karen passed by it every week on her morning walk. Sometimes she sat there, sometimes she just paused. She no longer carried her clipboard, but she carried something far more valuable now: awareness, and she was determined to pass it on. Prejudice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it writes letters, builds fences, uses the word we to push out them. But healing doesn't always need fanfare. Sometimes it starts with showing up, sitting down, and choosing day after day to see people fully and fairly. Because the greatest work isn't in catching hate once it explodes. It's in disarming it before it even takes root. The end.